Welcome to Power Summit 2023.
On the stage as the moderator of this session, we'd also like to invite on stage Ms. Kavita Pokhrel-Kadel, Executive Committee Member of IPAN. We'd also like to welcome Mr. Dinesh Dalal, Head of Sustainable Banking at NMB Bank. We'd also like to welcome on stage Mr. Salil Devkota, Environment and Social Safeguard Consultant. We'd also like to invite on stage Ms. Prakriti Shrestha from Urja Developers. We'd also like to invite on stage as a panelist in this panel, Mr. Dipesh Bishta, Senior Environmental and Social Manager, Nepal Water and Energy Development Company. We'd also like to invite on stage Ms. Swasti Aryal from Butwal Power Company Limited, Ms. Sital Pokhrel from Solu Hydropower Limited, Mr. Dhan Thapa, National Banking Institute. Definitely a very inclusive panel as we talk about sustainability and inclusive hydropower development. And without any further delay, may I please hand over the proceedings of this session to our moderator, Ms. Kate.
So good afternoon, everyone, and warm welcome to Session 15. Maybe we can close the doors, actually. Yeah, so really thankful for the opportunity to be here for this session on sustainability and inclusive development, and want to thank IPAN for the strong collaboration over the last decade that we've had between IFC and IPAN. And thanks very much also to our development partners, the government of Norway, Australia, as well as Japan. Without them, our work would not be possible. So really, really happy to be here for this session. I think this is, of course, one of the most important sessions of the summit. And when I reflect back on the Power Summits back to 2013, and I look through all of the agenda, there's been, an evolution of including sustainability and gender-related issues into the summit agenda. And we're really pleased that we have a space here to talk about the amazing work that's being done. When we think about Nepal, at least for myself, I of course think about the beautiful Himalayan mountains. I think about the rushing rivers of the country, of course, the natural habitats that are here. And I also think about, the intricate architecture, the Durbar squares, the stupas that really draw people to coming to Nepal. And of course, I also think about the momos and masalas, because without the wonderful food, we would not be sustaining ourselves. But most importantly, I think, over the last 10 years, we've been talking about the business case for environment, social, and governance issues. And we've been talking about why it's so important. And there's been tremendous progress in Nepal. And I think we're beyond that stage of talking about the business case. If there's still questions out there in the audience about the business case on ESG, let's have a chat afterwards. But I hope everyone is on board with this notion of, including and thinking about environmental and social risks and impacts in hydropower sector. We're beyond that now. And so with all of the food and the nature and the architecture, the foundation of this country is really its people. It's all of you, and it's all of our panelists here today. And our session is really about powering the people. It's about the people that power the hydropower sector. It's about really driving sustainability. And we really wanted this session to focus on the capacity that exists in the country, the capacity of the people who are doing and leading companies, taking forward innovative approaches, using different tools and guidelines, and to share that with all of you. So without further ado, I'd like to turn to the video. We have a short video that's really setting the foundation for this session. And following the video, we'll have a panel discussion. Thanks. Our work in Nepal in the hydropower sector has been a journey. That journey has been to look at how to develop the hydropower sector in a sustainable way through different interventions.
This manual has bridged the gap between the national and international requirements also. And after this manual, the government of Nepal and IFC has prepared the training module on EIA for hydropower sector. And based on this training module, the trainings were conducted at the federal and province level Ministry of Forest and Environment staff to build their capacity in reviewing the EIA reports for hydropower sector.
When I took this training regarding the hydropower EIA at province level, I have enhanced my knowledge. I feel now like very confident while doing those review part.
As part of the Trishuli assessment tool developed in November 2019 and adapted in the field in 2020, early 2020, before the pandemic, we were able to adapt and deploy some of the most throughput and effective fish monitoring methodologies out in the field. Our team got a very comprehensive training in electrofishing, none like the one Nepali teams have received here in Nepal. We've also been one of the first agencies through CMDN to deploy environmental DNA as a widespread genetic monitoring tool for fish and aquatic biodiversity in Nepal.
पहिलो लटमा 28 जना र दोस्रो लटमा 17 जना ट्रेनरहरूलाई हामीले आईएफसी को सहयोगमा ट्रेनिङ दिएका थियौं र ती ट्रेनरहरूलाई युज गरेर त्यसपछि हालसम्म हामीले 403 जना पार्टिसिपेन्ट्सहरूलाई एन्भाइरनमेन्ट एन्ड सोशल रिस्क म्यानेजमेन्टको बारेमा तालिम दिइसकेका छौं।
After the report came, we found it to be very useful, as the study said that there was some some part of risk there also, and also there were benefits. And the recommendation from the study basically was that there needs to be a big campaign for financial literacy.
Normally what we see is that there are a lot of problems. We are always talking about the problems, but After joining the PBW, what it ensured is that there is possibility in the problems, and females can lead, and females can be multitasking. And those companies that are led by the female are really doing a good job in the market. Example is NRN Infrastructure and Development Limited.
We have received various trainings and policy advisory service from PBW. We've also developed GBVH protocols and action plans, and we've learned the best ways to integrate GBVH in our current grievance mechanism.
For the first time in the history of the company, we have appointed a female board of director, and it's been a big achievement for us.
We are extremely committed as private sector of Nepal, as the Independent Power Producer Association, to maintain gender balance, gender equality, and provide all the available opportunities to women in this sector. And the Powered by Women initiative of IFC has provided the real push for all of us to practice this thought.
We now have a cohort of Nepalis who have built their capacity on environmental issues, various technical elements, have built their capacity on various social related aspects and on gender related aspects. They are available to work in the market with other companies, with other firms, and that capacity is so important if we want to achieve sustainability of the hydropower sector. Okay, thank you very much. I hope that that provides a bit of a framing for you of the nature of this particular session. And so I'd actually like to first turn to Salil, who has been working as an environmental and social consultant in Nepal for over 20, 30 years. And, you know, talk to us about the power of the EIA manual and the trainings that you've been involved in at the national and the provincial level.
Thanks, Kate. Good afternoon. We are basically working in environmental and social safeguard sector for hydropower development, and we basically support the developer in preparing environmental and social impact assessment reports. Previously, we used to conduct EIAs based on the Environment Protection Act and regulation requirements. Now, with the support of the lending organizations, we have learned the best practices, and the requirements for the international financing institutions are well integrated into the ESIA reports. From the very beginning, the existing environment, the identification of impacts, prediction impacts, and its preparation of EIA report. So those kind of EIA reports are prepared and now been used in Nepali by the hydropower developers. So based on the EIA reports, the site-specific environmental and social management plans were prepared by the contractors, and once that site-specific environmental and social management plans were approved by the client, then the further goes for the monitoring. And for the monitoring also, the consultant is supporting the developer in the compliance and impact monitoring during the project construction and operation phases. And we are also enriched by the knowledge in preparing several documents, like preparing the documents for cumulative impact assessment. In that regard, we have prepared the cumulative impact assessment of UT1 216 megawatt, and we are preparing the cumulative impact assessment of Dudkoshi storage project, which is 635 megawatt, which is currently in place. So besides that, we are supporting the developer in resettlement and rehabilitation related activities, the preparation of afforestation plan, aquatic diversity management plan. In that regard, design of fish ladder, fish hatchery, fish trapping and hauling, and also the terrestrial biodiversity management plan. And if the particular hydropower project triggers the FPIC free prior informed consultation, we are preparing the FPIC plan for the particular project. And regarding the capacity, we have developed the EIA curriculum for the bachelor's and master's degree courses in environmental science, and that is in practice. And we are providing the support to the government in developing the environmental EIA manual for hydropower development. And based on the EIA manual, we have also developed the EIA module which is currently in use at the government and by the various stakeholders. So with these, we have integrated the national requirements and international, requirements, and to prepare a state-of-the-art document, and which is currently in practice. Thanks.
Thank you. And could you share just why is it important that this manual was shared at the local level, so across the 7 provinces of Nepal, 1? And 2, can you share more in depth, maybe 1 or 2 areas where the manual has sort of uplifted the national regulation or introduced international standards that are now being employed in Nepal?
Okay. Thanks, Kate. If you look into our Environmental Protection Act and regulations, compare that with the international financing institutions requirement, there were gaps in certain areas like stakeholder engagement and the community consultations and the biodiversity assessments. And this particular manual has come up with those requirements to bridge the gap. So those are some of the examples that has enriched the capacity. And if you look into the national context, we have previously we had only the Federal Environmental Protection Act and regulations. Now we have province level Environmental Act and regulations. So this training will further enhance the capacity of the province level government officials and other stakeholders.
Thank you. So now I'd like to turn to Prakriti Shrestha from Urja Developers. Urja and yourself are involved in the Powered by Women initiative. The Powered by Women initiative is an initiative of 19 hydropower companies, including EPAN, which is working to bridge the gaps, the gender-related gaps, and to address gender diversity and gender equality in the hydropower sector. If you could share a little bit about why Urja joined the initiative and 1 or 2 examples of work that Urja Developers is doing as part of your commitments to power women in the company.
Thank you, Kate. Namaste. Urja has always believed in providing respected role of questions to all its employees and ensure gender diversity and inclusivity. So when we, when Powered by Women came in, it was an opportunity for Urja to ensure that its motive and commitment towards this cause is fulfilled through association with Powered by Women. We have been working on this since day 1 by ensuring that from the start of the recruitment to the end, till the employee stays with us, the person gets a good working environment, a good working culture, and a very respectful workplace. And as we associated with PBW, we ensure that from the recruitment time itself, we ensure that we encourage females to apply. And that has been reflected in the count of females working with us. And further, we've also tried to ensure that we have more females in non-traditional roles. So we have also had increment in that area as well. So for example, we've just had in last few years, we have an addition of senior non-technical women in a leadership role, which is a very positive part for us. Likewise, we have had many female engineers working for us at head office and sites. We've also witnessed wherein encourage female interns to join us, go and work at sites and get trained. Also, we can see a very positive result wherein we have fresh female workers in non-technical roles like sub-overseers who were hired as skilled maintenance worker at our power plants. We have been trained as power plant operator and now even in the verge of becoming a shift in charge itself. So that's the progress that we have been seeing, and Urja commits to continue the same and ensure that we have gender inclusivity in our organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Just a couple of statistics on the Powered by Women initiative, which has been going on since December 2020 and will actually finish in June this year, where companies have made commitments around increasing women in leadership, increasing, to address gender-based violence and respectful workplaces, increasing knowledge and mainstreaming of gender within the environmental impact assessment process, as well as increasing women in non-traditional jobs. And there's many people here in the audience who are participating, both men and women, who are focal points, who have joined the initiative, and I think it's been quite interesting. But just between December 2020 and January this year, there's been a 3% increase on women in boards in the 19 hydropower companies. There's been a 5% increase in senior management. And there's been a 21% increase in integrating gender-based violence issues into grievance mechanisms, and a 3% increase in the number of women who have been recruited into non-traditional jobs, such as engineers or security guards and so forth. So there's a lot of work that's been done by the members, and I think in the next few months you'll hear a little bit more around what the successes that they've had and what it means for improving the sustainability of the sector. But I'd like to turn now to Dipesh. Dipesh Bisda is the Senior Environmental and Social Manager for NWEDC, who's developing the Upper Trishuli 1 hydropower project. And for you to share a little bit about the innovative tools and approaches that UT1 has been applying with regards to environmental and social issues in data collection, in addressing mitigation and management plans, and how you're sort of carrying that out and why. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. So NWDC also has informed in other forums. So we have lenders associated with the project. Basically, the BFIs are associated with the project. So as informed by Mr. Salilji, so our regulatory impact assessments are not enough to spearhead the risks assessment. So in terms of employing the ANS risk assessment in the project, so post the devastating earthquake, the project also has done several impact assessments and sectoral impact assessments of the project, and as such, the project, the UT1 project, is employing the risk impacts and mitigation processes within our project cycle. So one of the prominent one that we are employing is the Trishuli assessment tool. As also, I think yesterday there was a plenary session on the climate where the Trishuli assessment tool and methodologies was also presented by the speakers. So the primary requirement, the financials primary requirement, and also the regulatory requirement on biodiversity conservation and sustainable management of living resources. So the Trishuli assessment tool, as part of the CIA of the Trishuli Basin, was adopted, and the project is employing the tools and methodologies in order to achieve no net loss or net gain of biodiversity in the project. So we are conducting a long-term biodiversity baseline surveys within our project scale. So in terms of the contractor ENS management, so here in order to achieve, we are talking about sustainable and inclusive hydropower development. So one of the key stakeholders in the project are definitely the contractors who are also employed by the developer. So they need to have equal participation, and the risk management strategies has to be employed accordingly to by the contractors as well. So the contractors in the project, they are developing, and they have prepared a contractor environmental and social management and monitoring plans, which are embedded as part of the contractual obligations to take forward. and implement during the project cycle. So this has suitably, increased the capacity of the contractors in understanding the ENS risks of the project and employing appropriate management response techniques to manage the risks and manage the risks of environmental and social performance in the project. So that has helped in building up the capacity and of the project personnel. And the next is regarding we have been doing sustainably the TRISULI assessment tool monitoring of biodiversity in the project, and this has also the trainings has also developed capacity of national consultants in order to effectively carry out the biodiversity monitoring. So they are universities and also national consultants, fisheries consultants who are engaged with the project. So that has developed the capacity of the national consultants in order to carry out the conservation, biodiversity conservation, and sustainable management of living resources. So these are the keys. There are many more, but I think due to some time, I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipesh. Yeah, we can come back a little bit later and discuss about what it takes for a company like UT1 to put in place these kinds of practices. What kinds of commitment and resources and capacity is needed. But yeah, let's move on. So I'd like to invite Swasti from the Butwal Power Company, from BPC, to come back to the Powered by Women initiative and the tremendous work that BPC has been doing under the initiative to genderize your business practices. So could you share a little bit with us on what you've been doing internally within the company? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Under the commitment areas of the initiative, Powered by Women initiative, BPC has basically focused on empowering women in leadership role, as well as promoting respectful and safe work environment. And like I mentioned in the video, now BPC has a gender inclusive board, which is a big achievement for us because it's the first time in the history of the company that we have appointed a female board member. Apart from that, to promote respectful workplace, to promote the respectful workplace, the company has basically included the clauses related to anti-sexual, anti-bullying harassment, anti-sexual harassment and anti-bullying clauses in its personal manual, which is again reflected in the company's policies, workplace policy, which is basically focusing on gender-based violence and harassments, response and prevention and response. And the policy has already been approved by the board, and based on that, the awareness, the staff and the relevant stakeholders have been made aware of the policies and the provisions that are mentioned in the policies. So this is one of the achievements that we have made under the initiative. Apart from that, grievance handling officer has been appointed, female grievance handling officer has been appointed both in the head office as well as in the site offices, so that it's believed that with that, the female employees, especially the ones in the site offices who are less literate, will be able to approach the grievance handling officer, who is a female now, for any cases that are related to sexual harassment, bullying, and all those.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing about that work. I think that the commitment from the management of BPC and the time allowed for the staff, right, to be able to roll out this work, to change your policies, to be able to build internal capacity and conduct surveys and understand the issues at hand has really made it possible to make those changes right internally, and these are areas in which are not so difficult with the willpower and the commitment by senior management for other companies to do as well. So thanks for sharing that. Let me turn also to Sital from Sulu Hydro. We call this sort of the power of talking, the toolbox approach. So please share with us a bit about Sulu's toolbox approach, what it is, what it contains, and why you've been employing this approach within your company.
Okay. Our effort focuses mainly on promoting women in leadership role, enhancing respectful workplace, increasing opportunities for women in non-traditional roles. Notably, we have taken a unique approach in fostering the respectful workplace for women by integrating GBPH with the toolbox talk. And toolbox talk is all about a short training session that is given by our senior engineers, our EHS officers to the workers. It is of about 20 to 30 minutes that is given at the work site before each shift. And this talk covers up about what task is to be done and what are the risks associated with it, and about do's and don'ts regarding the safety. And we prioritize safeguarding the right and the well-being of the individual within our portfolio, that is, those include in our company, in the project areas, as well as neighboring communities. So that commitment really drew us about implementing toolbox talk from the very beginning of our construction phase in the site. And we have developed the unique approach that is GBBS Toolbox Talk, which is like a combination of GBBS awareness along with the Toolbox Talk. And in this talk, not only the safety protocols are covered, but regarding what are the GBBS risks, like what do you mean by GBBH, what are the mitigating tools and resources available, how to report it, that is also covered in that training session. And this is done once a week in the work site among the workers, and among the employees it is done twice a year or at the time of the induction. And also we cover the contractor side also, so that the whole GBPS topic will be covered, and it will be help in mitigating GBPS as well as safety hazard. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. So just to say GBVH, in case you're not sure, that's gender-based violence and harassment. And we've seen, during the COVID period, not only in Nepal, but around the world, an uptick in, a prevalence of gender-based violence and harassment in the hydropower or in the power sector. This is often because of the remoteness of projects, as well as, bringing the in-migration of construction workers coming, from in-country or from around the region. And it's not to say that this is happening in every project or at high speed, but the point is that it's important to stop it in its tracks before it potentially, creates problems internally. So what many of these companies have been doing is really learning about it and what does it mean, what does GBV mean in your company and to your staff and at the community level, and to put in place the necessary policies and practices. And hopefully there'll be, less incidences of GBV in this sector. So thanks for sharing that approach. So I'd like to now turn a little bit to the banking sector. So we've heard from 4 hydropower companies that are working, on innovative environmental and social tools and approaches in their companies. And now just to talk a little bit about the financial and banking sector, we did hear some presentations over the last 2 days, from the Nepal Rashtra Bank, the central bank governor, as well as from the regulatory department, and the rollout in 2018 of the environmental and social risk management guidelines to the commercial banks, as well as the updating to include different climate parameters, and also to work towards preparation of checklists for those banks that are investing in sectors such as hydropower. What is your responsibility to or what is your role to assess hydropower projects when you're considering, financing in the domestic market? So I'd like to turn to Dan from the Nepal, the National Banking Institute, NBI, who's been working on rolling out capacity building of the ESRM guidelines. So can you share a little bit about what NBI is doing in this area and why it's important?
Thank you, Kate. Yes, National Banking Institute is definitely it's a national level apex banking and finance academy established by the industry, for the industry, especially to build up capacity in the banking and financial sector of the region. And by and large, and we work with the banking industry. And although we do not directly work with the power companies, hydropower companies, we work through the banks. This is the fact that ESC in Nepal is at the very beginning stage, and Nepal Rashtra Bank issued the ESRM guidelines back in 2018, and it was actually incorporated in the Unified Directive back in 2020, and now it has been mandatory for all the banks and hydropower companies to follow. And following the ESRM guidelines, the first the strategic initiatives National Banking Institute has taken is to build up capacity in the banking industry. And we had a big challenge, especially of the trainers in this area. And in collaboration with IFC, we actually conducted 2 batches of TOTs, training of trainers on ESRM. And we built a pool of 25 experts, local experts, and the local experts also consist of both the banking sector and also the hydropower sector. And at the same time, we also developed 2 different levels of ESRM courses, especially targeting to the banks. And the one is for the policy level curriculum, which is actually targeted to the top executives of banks. And the other one was the execution level curriculum, which was targeted to the RMs, especially the people who work in the field. And since then, we have been continuously conducting a number of training programs. And our CEO in the video clip, he has also given the number of whatever we did. And this is one of our very popular programs, and these programs are continuously going on. And there are a lot of programs on the pipeline also. So this is what we have been doing, especially to improve the ESRM implementation in the hydropower, and that is actually through the banking sector, not directly to the hydropower sector. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Do you have information on the demand? Since the guidelines have been in place, since you started doing the training of trainers program, what is the demand from the banking sector for your services?
Well, yes, this is one of our popular programs, and I think the banks, they seem to be pretty interested on these programs. We have rolled it out. We have circulated these programs to all the banks. And yes, we have a very good response from the bank industry. I think through these trainings, the bankers, they are empowered and they are equipped, well equipped with the knowledge and which they can support, using the knowledge they can support to the hydropower sector. So I think we have a very good response from the industry, and the demand is pretty good now.
Okay, thanks. Just want to say that if you have any questions, to please use the app. I will pause after this first round of the panel to take some of the questions that are coming in. So if you have any question to any of the panelists, please put them forward now or throughout the rest of the session. So we just heard from NBI, who's involved in, as you hear, training of trainers programs and rolling out to the commercial banks. And now I'd like to turn to Dinesh from NMB Bank, who's the head of sustainable banking. And of course, NMB Bank is a huge player, as we heard from their chief in the earlier session. So can you tell us from NMB, what you are doing as a major bank in Nepal to take on board sustainability and environmental and social aspects, and how you're building that capacity of the bank and sort of leading the way also for other banks in the market? Thanks.
Thank you, Kate. Good afternoon, all. NMB being the front runner in practicing this sustainable banking practice in the country, so we have implemented a few initiatives to promote sustainable finance in the country. So first we started with these environmental, social and governance related risk integration into our overall risk management framework. So for implementing ESG framework, we got support from the British International Investment and our joint venture partner FMO. So they help us to develop the ENS related policy, manual and guidelines. Even they help us to build our staff capacity in initial days. So right now this ESG is in full-fledged implementation within NMB. So any proposal we are reviewing from the credit approval point of view, we will use this ESDD, the environmental and social due diligence checklist, to see the risks from the environmental and social risk perspective. So if there are the project which qualify under high risk category, then what are the steps the developer is taking to minimize that risk. So the one is the integration of ESG within overall risk management framework. The other one is we are also working on this gender mainstream. Also, we are aiming to have a gender balance in our workforce. Right now, we have 40% workforce are female, and within a few years, we'll achieve our aim to achieve a gender balance. So we are also providing equal opportunity to differently able population and the staff from a minority community also. So apart from this, we are also working on this disclosure fund also. So NMB is the first commercial bank from Nepal who is the signatory of this partnership for carbon accounting financials. It's the industry-led initiatives initiated by the European Bank and then later on adopted by the North American Bank. Right now, more than 300 financial institutions across 5 continents. They are even following PCAF standard to disclose the carbon footprint. So we are the first institution and even the first institution from Asia to represent in the steering committee of PCAF. So by following PCAF standard, we are the first bank to disclose our finance emission. So what is the impact of our finance in terms of carbon footprint? The other initiatives under sustainable banking practice is like we got the first credit line from IFC, thanks to IFC, and even there are the follow-up lending from IFC side. So while providing this second credit line, IFC put one condition, like they push NMB to look into the green financing. So out of the total, the $25 million credit line, 25% was carved out for green financing. So even there was the question like, so what is the definition of green? So if you see the green taxonomy or even the definition of the green, we don't have any policy in the country. So we developed a green financing framework which has been even vetted by the KPMG India, and this green financing framework is in implementation right now. So by following that green financing framework, we even met the requirement set by the IFC under green financing commitment. Beside this, we are also the first commercial bank to issue energy bond. So if you go with the central bank guideline, then those banks who have excess portfolio in energy sector lending can issue the energy bond. And those commercial banks who are struggling to meet that energy sector lending threshold can buy that bond. So we have already issued more than 4 billion Nepalese rupees energy bond, and then mobilize that fund to finance a hydropower project in the country. So we are also having partnership with the like-minded institution, even not only in hydro sector, we are even giving high priority to other renewable energy sectors. So we are active in solar, we are active in microhydro and other mini-grid projects. So we are the handling bank of Alternative Energy Promotion Center, managing all these, the subsidy which has been provided by government to promote this last mile energy resources. And even to reduce our carbon footprint, we started using electric vehicle. Even we are even in financing also. So we are giving higher priority to finance electric vehicles so that we can create demand within the country. And we are also investing huge money to the digitalization initiative so that we can reduce the physical use of paper also. So there are many initiatives which has been implemented by NMB to mainstream the sustainable banking practice in overall its operation.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing those. I think there's a couple of them we can deep dive into on the next round, in particular on, like what it takes for your bank to employ these different, policies and practices, and, the uptake of the staff internally. But before we finish this round, I'd like to come to Kabita. She's an executive committee member of EPAN. And if you're at the 2019 Power Summit, you might remember that EPAN and IFC signed an MOU, which actually kickstarted the Powered by Women initiative. And one of the commitments that EPAN made was to increase the women representation on their executive committee, which they have now 2 representatives on the committee. So this is quite exciting achievement. And in turn, she has been working to develop a Women and Energy Committee. So can you share a little bit about your role on the committee and also the formulation of the Women in Energy Committee within EPAN, what it is, who's involved, what are some of the activities that the committee is doing, why is it important to EPAN and to the overall, power sector? Thanks.
Thank you for the questions. Respected moderators, panelists, and the audience, very good afternoon. When we onboard in the executive committee, we decided to formulate one subcommittee to lead the women empowerment activities in the EPAN and in the entire power sector. So we discuss among ourselves and give the name as Women in Energy Nepal. It represents the country, sector, and the gender. That's why we gave that name. And after we set the objectives of the WEN, that is, provide learning and development opportunities through various trainings and technical sessions, and promote principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and strengthen the capacity of women on leadership role, create networking opportunities, exchange the good practices, and mutual learning between the women of diverse fields. These 5 are the key objectives of Women in Energy Nepal, and we are working on this. The board is also positive in our initiatives, and now we have given the one more reservation for the female seat, and from the next committee we have 3 reservations for females. And once we start the Women in Energy, then we advocate for the female representation. And now we have 1 female in advisory committee and 3 females in province committee as well. That's the achievement we have made. And then we conduct a seminar to raise the awareness of the female that what is the provisions in laws and constitutions of Nepal, and the mutual learning from the women of diverse fields. With the aim of these 2 objectives, we conduct a seminar in Women in Energy sector in Nepal in March, I think, in March. And we have more than 100 participants. And the speakers, all we have given the opportunity for the female speakers to unleash their potentials, and all speakers are females. We have just taken the women from the ground, that the heavy equipment operator to the top level management, the CEO. And all of them are fantastic. And even the speaker of the heavy equipment, the keynote speech of the heavy equipment operator was so good that it was like a motivational speech at that time, and many of our participants over there become emotional with our speech that we have done. And we have also conducted various trainings with collaboration powered by women initiatives and with other partner agencies to upskill the knowledge and skills of our member companies. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, and also congratulations for the commitment also by EPAN to increase the number. I want to pause right now to take a few questions from the app. So if you have any questions, we'll come back to them at the end. Actually, we have 2 questions. They're both for Salil. So the first one is there any correlation observed between the type of hydros, such as run-of-river, peaking run-of-river, reservoir pump storage, and its impact on environment during the EIA or IEE assessment of projects, and which type of hydropower project has least impact on the environment? And this is from Delandra Raj Patak.
The type of hydropower project is not only the criteria that we evaluate the impact. Certainly, if you look from the generic perspective, like resettlement and rehabilitation related impact will be greater in the reservoir type of project compared to other projects like the ROR and peaking ROR. But there are certain other criteria that we looked into while evaluating the impacts, like the project site, the setting of the project footprints, where we are going to keep the project supporting infrastructures. Those are the key aspects that needs to be looked into. And take example of some of the projects, and from the impact perspective, we look the 3 environmental aspects: the physical, biological, and socio-economic environment. In some of the projects, even the small projects have bigger impacts. Like, take example of Ikukola hydroelectric project. We don't have any like resettlement and rehabilitation related impacts in that particular project. But that project falls in conservation area, and we have to deal with the national park and other biodiversity related issues. And another example, like I'll give you another example. Take Super Trishuli hydroelectric project. Previously, it was designed as a tunnel. Tunnel was there from for the project. Now, from the physical perspective, that was one of the impacts visualized during the environmental impact assessment. Then, looking into the alternative, that project was designed as a dam-to powerhouse. Now we have a dam-to powerhouse, and the ball turbine is has replaced. So the impact really are dependent on the project-specific siting of the project footprints, and whether the impacts are reversible or non-reversible. There are some impacts which could be reversed into the nature, some impacts which could not be reversed into the nature. So those are the impacts. Take example of Upper Karnali. The Upper Karnali, we have the issue on the biological diversity, especially on the fish. For the golden mahasir, we are dealing with the issues of golden mahasir. So you could not generalize the project based on the type. We need to look from the physical, biological, and socio-economic aspects. So that's...
Okay, thank you. And the second question is, how do you see the role of government departments in monitoring and in the regulatory space? What do you recommend for the project developers and government departments? This is from Jahansab Marad.
Okay. The thing is, like, as I mentioned earlier, we prepared the site-specific environmental and social management plan based on the environmental impact assessment, EMP. And the government, it is the responsibility of the developer to monitor the project. Environmental and social reports needs to be prepared, and as per the mandated by the government, it needs to be submitted to the government in a biannual basis. So the primary responsibility of the monitoring is the project itself, and the external monitoring is by the panel of experts or by the government departments. So that should be the mechanism for effective implementation of environmental and social monitoring on the project.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, if anyone has more questions, you can put them in the app. So what you heard in this first round is a diversity of environmental and social and gender-related initiatives being taken up by financiers, by hydropower companies, by the EPAN network, and they've all been innovating, using different approaches and tools to help and make sure that their work is more sustainable and more inclusive. Now I'd like to go back to the panel and ask our second question, which is really, so what, right? So how does this work actually make projects sustainable? How does this contribute to the sustainability of the hydropower sector in Nepal, of your project, of your company? So if you can just briefly draw on that to give the audience, a flavor of, why put in the effort and the resources and bring more diversity into your companies, and how that's contributing to, the better future of, the commitments being made by the Nepal government for the sector. So I'll start, again, just in the same order. I'll go back to you, Salil, briefly.
So, as you are aware, we have developed the environmental manual for hydropower sector in 2018. So, based on that particular manual, the government of Nepal has developed the training module for EIA, and that training module was rolled out in at the national level, at the federal level, and also at the province level. So far, almost like 150 government officials were trained, and there are other stakeholders also participated in the training. So that built the capacity of the federal as well as the province level government officials of different government offices. So that's one of the achievements made in the last year, in 2023.
And why the provincial level? Again, why there's been a focus on capacity at the provincial level. So what is like the role of the provincial authorities in today's Nepal compared to before?
Previously, we had like only the Federal Environment Protection Act and regulation. If you look now, we have like federal system and we have Federal Environment Protection Act and regulation. So it is very important for the organizations to build the capacity at the province level also.
Okay, thanks. Turn over to you, Prakti.
Thank you, Kate. At Urja, when we talk about gender inclusivity and gender diversity as we work towards this, it certainly allows us to bring a different perspective to the table, and it certainly strengthens our organizational performance. And as we work on this, we've also realized the need for capacity development across the organization, and we have been working for sustainable employability, where we not only consider the training, coaching, and monitoring of each individuals, irrespective of the gender, for the input towards the organization, but for the personal growth as well. And as we work on this, I also have realized that the gender stereotyping at the project sites, that females cannot be working at the sites, have been lessened much more, and they are more open and appreciative about it. And the fact that a hydropower project site can be a safe place for a female to work at is now more open and acceptable at all.
Thank you. I turn over to Dipesh. We heard in one of the earlier sessions about, and we hear this, everywhere around the world, the complicated compliance requirements of IFC, especially on environmental and social aspects. So given the role that we're co-developing and financing the UT1 project, which you're leading on the environmental and social aspects, and you've shared a number of the different efforts that have been made around environmental aspects and, mainstreaming of contractor management and around the use of the Trishuli tool. If you could now talk in the context of the question on how this is going to, or will this make your project more sustainable, and, what it takes by your company and by your team, to actually implement this kind of work.
Thanks, Kate. So along with the financing at NWDC, definitely there are a lot of capacity development that had been infused along with the financing in the project. So one of the key aspects on those is contractor management. So as I talked earlier, so contractor equality, gender. So there has been efforts from the financiers in terms of training. We have been involved in various forums like the Powered by Women also, and also separate advisory services that has been provided by the financiers in terms of gender equality within the organization. And the key advices, observations, recommendations from various advisory supports have been integrated into our overall operational side also, and that is also in progress within the organization. So that will definitely build on how gender equality will further be embedded within our operations in the organization. So these are the efforts ongoing, and there are many other efforts in terms of sharing experiences, global experiences from in the ENS management within the organization. So that support has been extended by our financiers and is ongoing, and we expect that our performance at the national level as well as the national capacity building will happen over the time and within our organization as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So let me ask Swati very quickly how your work is contributing to the sustainability of the sector.
Yeah, we have, gender-based violence itself is a very new term for most of us here. So yeah, we have started talking about it in the organization, and we have recently developed the policy, and yeah, our result cannot be seen overnight, but we are positive that with this, in the near future, we have a lot to do, but still we are starting it. That's a positive thing for us. And in addition, our board members, as well as the top at the leadership positions, managers at the leadership positions have shown keen interest in executing the action plan and the robust monitoring and evaluation framework which we have developed on the policy. So that's a very positive point, and the employees are aware of the term itself and the policies, and people have started talking about it without any hesitations. So I think that will lead to the sustainability of the initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Sital, your thoughts?
Okay, after implementing Toolbox Talk with the GVPH, it has helped in creating the awareness about what are the GVPH issues. What we came to know, like only the workers or employees used to think that GVPH is related with the male and the female gender only. But after the training sessions, they are aware that it is not only between the male and female workers, but it may happen between the same gender, like male to male or female to female as well. And this has really helped to reduce GBPH issues as well as the safety hazards. And not only that, it also has helped in diffusion of the cases that may occur in the very stage itself. And next one is, it has really helped to convey that management are really committed towards creating the safe and gender inclusive workplace. This has really helped in creating like a sense of belongingness within the stakeholder. And after implementing Toolbox Talk, we have initiated the provision of separate toilet as well as accommodation for the females so that safe work environment will be there for them. So these are the approach right now that will really help. We think that we are going towards the sustainability and it will help us in upcoming days. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dan?
Okay. Thank you, Kate. So in my case, the changes or the impact that can be made is through the trainings, especially the knowledge intervention. By resources, what I mean is the pull-up trainers, the experts we have built. And we have been engaging them continuously to conduct training programs on ESRM back-to-back. And I think the trainings have definitely equipped all the banks, all the participants with a better knowledge and support their clients at their level. And so I think, although we do not actually have any post-training impact analysis reports, based on the feedback that we have been receiving, so we assume that the programs are very, very effective. And so I think whatever policies or procedure we have in place, I think that doesn't make any difference until and unless they are implemented. If we have the implementation and the monitoring is very, very important, I think. So, and we should have a very robust implementation and the monitoring policies in place. Only after that, I think this will be more effective. Thank you.
Thank you. And over to you, Dinesh.
So role of the financial institution is to use the power of money to fund the good project. So which means like collecting resources from different sources and utilize that resources to fund the sustainable project or sustainable initiative. So I want to highlight the few issues here, like the earlier presentation Anupaji made, like there is no accreditation from any commercial banking site from Nepal to GCF. So Minister of Finance being the NDA of the GCF here in Nepal can facilitate a commercial bank to have easy access to GCF so that the Nepalese financial institution can access the climate tech fund and utilize that fund to finance the hydropower project. The other part is the monetary policy issued by the central bank for this fiscal year has spelled out like they will introduce the green taxonomy by this fiscal year end. So I think the green taxonomy should be introduced as early as possible so that it will open up the market for innovative financing instrument such as green fund and green bond and other the climate tech fund.
Thank you. And Kavita?
Yeah. In Nepal, in this power Power Summit Committee, Organizing Committee. The board has included both women in the committee as well. And we have raised the issue that this time we have to increase the number of female speakers. And the committee has set a target to include at least one female speaker in all these sessions. We could not achieve the target, but yes, we have made some improvement. The number of female speakers has increased this time as compared to previous Power Summit. That's an achievement. And the next thing is a lot of females engineers and others are showing keen interest to join our Women in Energy Nepal. That's a great achievement that we have made, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with that, I'd like to thank all of the panelists for sharing all of your words of wisdom and your efforts. And I think it's been a fantastic showing of what is possible to be done in the environmental and social and gender space in Nepal. And I call to all of you to talk to the panelists to gather more information so that you can exchange knowledge and share resources and build on the tools. And I'd like to thank my IFC colleagues for all of their support and help in organizing the summit as well as this session as a whole. There's one last question I just wanted to respond to, which was, should any of the rivers in Nepal be left as free-flowing? And I would say the answer is yes. And then the question is, how do you make that decision? That decision should be made on best practice, scientific data and information, but more importantly, there should be a comprehensive master plan that includes both strategic environmental assessment and power master planning combined together for Nepal. And that will help in, facilitating and making that decision. So thanks, and over to you.
Thank you very much to our moderator and panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, can we put our hands together for this incredible panel that conducted this session, which provided us with valuable insights on integrating sustainable practices in hydropower development in Nepal, with a special focus on promoting gender inclusivity, sustainability, and community engagement. And it's definitely admirable and applaudable that sincere efforts have and are being made for inclusivity. So big congratulations to IPAN as well for their hard work in making sure that inclusivity was highlighted in the Power Summit 2023. And for the token of love distribution, may I please now invite Ms. Abhigya Malla, Executive Committee Member of IPAN, to kindly join us on stage to present this token of appreciation. Firstly, to our moderator, who definitely did a fabulous job in bringing out the best questions forward to our panelists. Ms. Kate Lazarus, Senior Asia Environment, Social and Governance Advisory Lead. We'd also like to thank Ms. Kavita Pokhrel-Kadel, Executive Committee Member of IPAN. Mr. Dinesh Dulal, Head of Sustainable Banking, NMB Bank. We'd also like to thank Mr. Salil Devkota, Environmental and Social Safeguard Consultant. We'd also like to thank Ms. Prakriti Shrestha from Urja Developers. We'd also like to thank Mr. Dipesh Bishta for his insights on the tools to power data collection, mitigation, and management strategies. We'd also like to thank Ms. Swasti Aryan. We'd also like to thank Ms. Sital Pokhrel from Solu Hydropower Limited. We'd also like to give our gratitude to Mr. Dhana Thapa from National Banking Institute. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we've come towards the end of the 15th session here at Power Summit 2023. May I please request our distinguished panelists for a group photograph to end this session, which was on sustainable and inclusive hydropower development. Like our moderator emphasized, if you would like to get in touch with any of the panelists, you could do so via the Power Summit app. So please make sure that you've downloaded the app. We are going we are heading for a 15-minute tea and coffee break, but we hope to see you right after tea and coffee break because we have a very, very interesting session, which is the Energy Ministers and Think Tank Conclave. So I'd like to request all of you to kindly join us. In 15 minutes, we're going to have a very, very interesting session where we have honorable ministers, former energy ministers and former water resource ministers joining us for an incredible session.
Welcome to Power Summit 2023.